Hello friends, this is my true story. So watch till end. I remember the sunlight that afternoon, how unnaturally warm it felt on my skin, how peacefully it soaked the quiet suburban street. I remember thinking I would walk up those porch steps, knock on my daughter's door, and hear Evelyn's voice float through the hallway like it always did when she was happy, when she was home. But instead, I took one step too close to the door and life split open. My name is Lewis Harrison, 71 years old, husband of 45 years, father to a girl I once believed I understood. I walked toward the house expecting smiles. Instead, I found a man running toward me, arms flailing, panic carving deep lines across his face. "Stop," he shouted, a voice that cut the air like a warning shot. "Don't go in there, sir, don't. I already called 911. For a moment, I thought he was mistaking me for someone else. I even lifted my hand halfway to my chest, as if to signal harmless confusion. But then I saw his eyes, wide, brimming with fear, and everything inside me went cold, like someone had opened my ribs and poured ice straight into my heart. "What?" I managed. "That's my daughter's house. My wife is inside." He grabbed my arm, strong grip, firm enough that I felt the old military discipline in it before he ever told me who he was. "You can't go in," he said, breath sharp, voice trembling beneath the authority of someone who has seen too many terrible things. "Something's bad wrong in there." Seconds later, screeching tires, sirens slicing the quiet afternoon apart. Blue and red lights washed over the houses, warping their shadows into something unnatural. It felt like the whole street was holding its breath. "You're Henderson, right?" I asked, though I didn't know why. My mind was already running ahead of me. He nodded, but didn't let go of my arm. "What did you hear?" I demanded. His jaw clenched, and he looked back at the house, my daughter's house, as if staring at it too long might ignite it. "Started about 10 minutes ago," he said quietly. "Yelling." A man's voice, then a woman's, then a crash, heavy furniture hitting the floor, glass breaking. And then, he swallowed. A scream. Not fear, not anger. A scream from the soul. Then, "Please stop, you're hurting her." My knees almost buckled. Hurting her? Who? My Evelyn, my Maya. Before I could demand more, officers rushed past us, taking positions at the shattered doorframe. "This is Atlanta PD. Open up." Silence. Not the natural silence of an empty house. Something heavier. They kicked the door in. The moment their boots cracked the frame, I tore free from Henderson and followed them, ignoring every command to stay back. I didn't care about orders. I didn't care about protocol. I cared about one thing. My wife. The smell hit first. Metallic. Copper. Blood. The kind of smell that has no business inside a home. Especially not a home filled with memories, recipes, framed photographs, laughter. "Evie!" I shouted, voice breaking. "Evelyn!" The foyer was chaos. Furniture overturned, glass glittering like sharp stars across the floor. A lamp lay crushed beside a heavy oak chair. Picture frames were smashed, their images twisted under shards. The scene didn't look like a fall or an accident. It looked like a war. "In here," an officer called. I stumbled forward, and my entire world collapsed. Evelyn lay at the bottom of the staircase. Her body twisted, her hair matted with blood, her eyes open but unseeing, frozen on the chandelier above her like she had died mid-prayer. My heart stopped. My breath, my voice, my age, everything stopped. "Evelyn," I whispered, barely a sound. "Evie." My knees buckled, and I caught myself on the wall only because I had to. Because if I fell, there would be no getting up again. She wasn't gone. She couldn't be gone. This woman had been my entire adult life, my anchor, my compass, my calm. "Pulse," the officer shouted. "Faint, very faint. She's breathing. We need EMS right now." Breathing. The words slammed into my chest like defibrillator paddles. She wasn't dead. Something inside me cracked open and flooded me with desperate movement. I crawled near her, reaching for her hand, the one with the ring I had placed on her finger nearly half a century ago. "Evie, I'm here," I said, voice shaking. Hold on. Please hold on. Sir, don't touch her. An officer barked. We need to keep her stable. But I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. I could only kneel 2 feet away, watching the blood beneath her head bloom whiter, darker, more horrifying. Then another sound. Sobbing. I lifted my head. At the top of the staircase, curled into a corner like a broken child, was my daughter, my Maya, her body shaking violently with sobs. Maya, I shouted. Baby, are you hurt? What happened? She lifted her face, mascara carving rivers down her cheeks. But she didn't look at me. She didn't look at her mother. She looked past me, at someone else. Then her finger shot out, trembling so hard it looked like it might snap. Him! She screamed, voice raw and animalistic. He did it. I turned. Jason stood on the landing. My son-in-law, the man I had never trusted. His shirt collar torn. His face scratched, deep red slashes across his cheek. His eyes wide, stunned, broken. He attacked her. Maya sobbed. He pushed Mama. He pushed her. I didn't need a jury. I didn't need evidence. I didn't need logic. Those scratches alone were enough to ignite every fire I had ever kept buried. The police rushed him instantly. Hands where we can see them. Jason didn't fight. He didn't run. He didn't speak. His mouth opened, closed, opened again like he was choking on words that refused to come out. The officer slammed him against the wall, cuffing him hard. No, he whispered finally. No, she. Save it. The officer growled. Something inside me snapped. A white-hot rage I hadn't felt since I was a much younger, angrier man surged through me. I lunged toward the stairs. You did this. I roared. You worthless. Henderson grabbed me from behind, pulling me away, his strength still the strength of a soldier. Lewis, stop. Don't do something you can't take back. I fought him, I fought the truth, I fought myself, but none of that mattered. The police dragged Jason past me, his face twisted, his voice breaking as he yelled. Check her laptop. Please, check her laptop. She found. Liar. Maya screamed from the stairs. Monster. The door slammed behind them. And suddenly, everything was quiet again. Quiet except for my daughter's sobs. Quiet except for the paramedics rushing in. Quiet except for the roar inside my chest telling me I had known, from the very beginning, exactly what kind of man Jason was. A monster. And I was finally going to prove it. But that was the last moment in my life when I believed I understood anything at all. Hospitals are strange places. They hum with fluorescent lights and whispered grief, as if the walls themselves know more tragedies than any living soul could bear. When they wheeled Evelyn away from me, my wife, my partner, the center of every quiet joy I had ever known, it felt like someone had peeled open my chest and removed the very organ that kept me human. Sir, you can wait in here, a nurse said, guiding me into a narrow waiting room with pale blue walls and seats far too soft for a moment so merciless. She spoke gently, but her eyes betrayed the truth. They didn't know if Evelyn would survive. I sat. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I didn't live. I simply existed in a state of suspended terror. Minutes passed like hours. Hours passed like grief. Then Maya walked in. My daughter looked like she had aged 20 years in a single afternoon. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled, and her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to keep from falling apart. She didn't sit beside me. She didn't look at me. She just lowered herself into the far corner of the room and stared at her trembling hands. Maya, I whispered. Nothing. She was drifting somewhere between shock and hysteria. A police officer soon followed. Not the rough ones from the house. This one was quieter, older, with the worn expression of a man who has seen enough deceit to recognize it before it even speaks. Mr. Harrison, he said, sitting opposite me. I'm Detective Morrell. I need to ask a few questions. I nodded stiffly. Ask. He clicked his pen. That sound still haunts me. The cold little tap that precedes bad news. First, he began, has your daughter ever reported domestic issues at home? Violence, threats, coercion? Anything? I opened my mouth to deny it instantly. Of course not. Maya would have told me. But the detective raised a hand gently. Please take your time. It's important. I glanced at my daughter. She didn't lift her head. No, I said slowly. Never. Not once. Jason, he was distant, rude, cold, but violent. I shook my head. I'd never seen that in him. The detective scribbled something. Maya, he said softly, turning toward her. Can you tell me again what happened before we arrived? She didn't raise her gaze, only whispered. He was hurting her. Your mother. Maya nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. And then, I ran upstairs. I was scared. I didn't want him to see me. And you said your father-in-law wasn't home. No, he wasn't, she murmured. I frowned. Maya, where was he supposed to be? She didn't answer. Detective Morel leaned back, studying her carefully. He'd been doing this long enough to sense fractures in a story before the cracks even widened. He turned back to me. Mr. Harrison, did Jason say anything to you when the officers were taking him out? I thought back. His voice echoed in my memory like a ghost stuck between walls. Check her laptop. Check her laptop. She found. He said something about a laptop. I murmured, but I don't know what he meant. Probably another lie. Morel's expression barely moved, but something sharp flickered in his eyes. Do you know if your wife uses a laptop frequently? She does, I answered. Every evening. Emails, finances, her writing why. Morel didn't explain. He simply wrote faster. Then he turned to Maya again. Your husband claims your mother found something, he said gently. Something on the computer. Do you know what that might be? My daughter's breathing changed, shallow, panicked. Her shoulders rose, her fingers tightened. She didn't find anything, she said quickly. Too quickly. He's lying. Maya, he's lying. She snapped, her voice cracking. The detective didn't react to her outburst. He simply observed her like a doctor watching symptoms reveal their cause. A long silence stretched between us, thick with tension and unspoken truths. Soon after, a surgeon entered the room. The way he walked, brisk, focused, grim, told me almost everything before he even spoke. Mr. Harrison, he asked. I stood so fast my chair skidded across the floor. Your wife is alive, he said. But it was close. Very close. My knees nearly gave out. We've stopped the bleeding. She's stabilized for now, but she has a severe head injury requiring monitored recovery. She cannot be woken at this moment. I swallowed hard, nodding, gripping the edge of a table, so tightly my hands shook. Can I see her? I whispered. In a bit, the surgeon said softly. She's still being moved. He left, and the relief that washed over me was so fierce it made me lightheaded. Evelyn lived. My Evie lived. But surviving and healing are two different wars. Detective Morel stood. I'm going to ask you both to remain available. We'll need to speak again. He walked out, and silence settled back into the room like dust. After a long minute, Maya finally moved, slowly turning her head toward me. Daddy, she whispered. Yes, sweetheart. And then the dam broke. She stumbled from her chair and collapsed into my arms, sobbing into my chest like a child. He was going to kill her, she choked. He was going to kill Mama. I saw him. I swear I saw him. I held her, smoothing her hair, trying to calm her racing breaths. I know, I murmured. I know, baby. But even as I said it, I felt a strange, unsettling tremor inside me. Something small, something quiet, something that felt like doubt. It wasn't Jason's innocence that pierced me. It was the memory of Evelyn's laptop, locked away in her study, and the fact that Jason, of all people, had screamed for the police to check it. Why would a guilty man invite investigators to look for evidence? My train of thought shattered when a nurse finally led me to Evelyn's room. She lay pale, wrapped in tubes and wires, monitors casting green shadows across her still face. Her chest rose and fell with a weak, rhythmic tremble, each breath a small miracle. I took the seat beside her and held her hand gently, afraid I might break her. Evie, I whispered. I'm here. I'm right here. Minutes dragged. I watched her eyelids flutter. I watched her chest rise. I watched the soft pulse in her neck that told me she was still fighting. Behind me, the room door opened. Maya stepped in. Her tears were gone now. her breathing steady, her expression unreadable. "Daddy," she said softly, "I need to tell you something." I turned to her, expecting more fear, but what she gave me was far heavier. "Jason wasn't always like this," she whispered. "He started drinking again. He started yelling. He wasn't the man I married anymore." Her voice cracked, but her eyes held steady. "He was hurting me too, Daddy." I felt something snap inside me. A lifetime of protective instinct. A lifetime of loving this child more than my own breath. "He what?" She nodded, lower lip trembling. "I was scared to tell you. I didn't want you to worry." The rage that surged through me this time was stronger, more vicious, more blinding. "I'm going to make sure he pays for this," I growled. "I swear it." Maya leaned into me, her head against my shoulder. And for a moment, for one brief, fragile moment, I believed her. I believed every word my daughter said. I didn't know then that belief would become the most destructive mistake of my life. I spent that night in the hospital chair beside Evelyn, watching the machines breathe for her. Every soft beep, every rising and falling green line, felt like a fragile promise that she hadn't let go of me yet. But as dawn broke, a pale, washed-out light that carried no warmth, my focus shifted to something else entirely. The laptop. Her laptop. The thing Jason had screamed about as they dragged him away in handcuffs. "Check her laptop. Check her laptop." She found. Why would a guilty man care about a laptop? Why would his last breath before arrest be a desperate plea for evidence? I told myself it was manipulation, desperation, another trick. But something in my gut kept gnawing, a sick, slow, persistent ache that refused to quiet. I didn't know it then, but that ache was the first warning that my entire understanding of my family was about to be dismantled. By mid-morning, Detective Morel requested I return home with him. To walk through the scene again, he said. He wanted clarity, details, anything my memory might have sharpened overnight. What he really wanted was truth. We drove in silence. The house looked different in daylight. Haunted, hollow, a crime scene sealed under yellow tape and heavy shadows. Every step inside echoed. "Mr. Harrison," Morel said softly, "before we go upstairs, I need to ask you something difficult." I braced myself. "Has your daughter ever struggled with emotional stability? Anxiety? Depression? Anything like that?" I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "My daughter is not unstable." I didn't say she was. He kept his voice calm. "But stress can make people see events differently." I stiffened. "Are you implying she lied?" "No," he replied. "I'm saying that intense situations, fear, trauma, can distort memory. It's normal. Normal." Nothing about this was normal. We moved through the house slowly. Every overturned table, every streak on the wall, every shattered frame felt like evidence of violence. Violence committed by Jason, I told myself. Violence that had nearly killed my wife. But then the detective pointed to something on the staircase wall, something I hadn't noticed in the chaos. A smear. Low. Very low. Too low to have come from a man falling or a woman being struck. "Blood from someone crawling," Morel murmured. I froze. "What are you saying?" He didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Where's your wife's laptop kept?" "In her study," I said. He led the way. The study was neat. Evelyn always kept it immaculate. Not a book out of place. Not a pen without a cap. Her laptop sat on the desk, clean, centered, untouched, like it was waiting. "Mr. Harrison," Morel said, "would you mind opening it?" I hesitated. My hand trembled as I lifted the lid. The screen blinked awake, and the first thing I saw was a password prompt. She used the same password for years. I whispered, typing it in. The desktop flickered into view. A single folder sat in the middle of the screen, labeled Maya. My stomach tightened. Morel caught the reaction instantly. "You've never seen that before?" "No," I said. "Never." "Open it." My finger hovered over the touchpad. Something inside me resisted. Not fear of what I'd see, but fear of what it might mean. When I finally clicked, the screen filled with dozens of documents. Emails, screenshots, bank statements, credit card alerts, loan rejections, collection notices. all in Maya's name, all hidden, all months old. I felt the blood drain from my face. What is all this? I whispered. Morel looked at me gently. Your wife was tracking your daughter's finances. I scrolled. Evelyn had saved everything. Every overdraft. Every unpaid bill. Every late notice. Every message Maya had ignored, hidden, or lied about. Maya told me they were fine. I murmured. She said they were stable. That Jason had a good job. That they were saving. Morel nodded. That's why I'm showing you this. I kept scrolling. And then, one email hit me like a punch to the ribs. A loan application from Maya. $40,000. Denied. Reason: unverified employment. She wasn't working. She had never been working. Lie after lie after lie. My throat tightened. She told me she was managing the finances. Morel hesitated, then said softly, I think your wife confronted her. The room tilted. That's when I noticed another document, an auto-saved note, dated the morning of the attack. I clicked it open. It was short, just a few lines. Maya, we need to talk. I found the emails. I found the debt. I found everything. Your father cannot know. Not yet. Please come home. We need to fix this quietly. My hands went cold. She found out, I said, voice shaking. Evie found out. Morel watched my face, and she called her daughter. And then, I whispered, we don't know. Silence. Heavy. Choking. Suffocating. It wasn't Jason my wife had been confronting. It was Maya. When I returned to the hospital later that afternoon, the nurse told me Evelyn had regained partial consciousness. Brief, faint, but enough for whispered speech. I walked into the room, trembling. She lay there, eyes half open, breath thin but alive. Alive enough to try to speak. Evie, I said, rushing to her side. I'm here. Her hand moved weakly, searching. I took it gently, terrified of hurting her. Louis, she whispered, voice scraped raw. Louis, promise me. You won't blame the wrong person. My heart slammed against my ribs. What do you mean? I whispered. Her eyes fluttered, unfocused, but determined. She lost control. Who? I breathed. She swallowed, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. Maya. The world stopped. I leaned closer, desperate. Evie, what did she do? What happened? Her lips trembled as she forced out the words. She pushed me. Everything inside me fell apart. My daughter. My only child. My blood. The person I had defended, protected, comforted. The person I had believed without question. Had tried to kill my wife. No, I whispered. Evie, no. But her grip tightened with surprising strength. Don't let her hurt anyone else. Her eyes closed again, her breathing weakening as nurses rushed in. I stumbled backward, my body shaking, my chest collapsing in on itself. Maya. My daughter. She didn't witness the crime. She committed it. And she had used me. Used my grief, my love, my trust, as a shield. The blueprint of betrayal had been there all along. I had just been too blind to see it. I walked out of that hospital room a different man than the one who had entered. A father in mourning. A husband in pain. And now, a witness to the truth. A truth that had claws. A truth that would tear my family apart. When I left Evelyn's room, my legs felt hollow, like bones carved from ash. My wife had spoken the truth with what little strength she had left, and now that truth hung around my neck like a stone dragging me in a dark, merciless water. My daughter, my only child, had pushed her mother down the stairs. Not Jason, not a stranger, not an intruder. Maya. Every step down the hospital hallway felt louder, heavier, like the building itself was listening to my heartbeat break. People passed me. Nurses, doctors, visitors, but they felt distant, blurred, as if I were watching the world through a thick, fogged glass. I didn't know where Maya was. I didn't want to know. But fate didn't care what I wanted. I found her in the waiting room, sitting exactly where she'd cried in my arms the day before. Except now. Now she wasn't crying. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't even pretending to be broken. She was calm. Calm in a way that made the air around her feel wrong. Daddy, she said, lifting her eyes to me with a softness that curdled my stomach. How's Mama? Did the doctor say anything? Her voice sounded too smooth, too practiced, like she wasn't asking about her mother, but about her alibi. I didn't answer. I stood in front of her, studying every detail of her face, every twitch, every flicker, trying to see the woman my wife had described, the one capable of violence, of deception, of nearly killing the person who loved her most. It was easier to believe in monsters when they didn't look like your child. Dad, she asked again, brow furrowing. What's wrong? Did something happen? I opened my mouth, but the words refused to come, because speaking them made them real. Speaking them meant I was choosing truth over blood. She stood slowly and reached for my arm. Dad, please. You're scaring me. I stepped back. Her hand froze midair. That single movement, her fingers hovering, her eyes widening, was the moment she realized something had changed. Daddy, she whispered, voice thinning. Why are you looking at me like that? Because your mother told me what you did. Because everything you said was a lie. Because I missed the signs. Because I raised you. Because I trusted you. Because I failed you. And you failed us all. But none of that made it out of my mouth. What I said instead, with a voice that felt carved from stone, was, Evelyn woke up. Her face drained of color. She did. Maya stuttered. She told me what happened. Silence. Thick. Deadly. Absolute. Maya didn't blink. She didn't breathe. She simply stared at me, her lips parting just enough to let out a trembling. Daddy, I don't understand. But she understood. She understood perfectly. I saw her shoulders tighten, the way people brace when the truth corners them and they've run out of exits. What did she say? She whispered. She told me you pushed her. The words fell between us like a blade. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted, not wide with innocence, but scanning, calculating, scrambling for a story that hadn't been prepared. Dad, she's confused, she said quickly. She hit her head. She doesn't know what she's saying. You can't believe that. You can't. You know me. I didn't know her. Or I thought I did. No, I said quietly. I know your mother. And she has never lied to me. Not once. Maya's face twisted, something between desperation and rage flickering behind her eyes. Daddy, I didn't. Stop, I said sharply. Just stop. She froze. And for the first time since she was a child, she seemed genuinely afraid of me. Not because I was angry, but because I finally saw her clearly. A door opened behind us. Detective Morrell stepped out, scanning the room until his gaze landed on me. When he saw my expression, broken, hollow, changed, his own hardened. Mr. Harrison, he said gently, we need to talk. Maya tensed. What? She demanded. Why is he here? Why? Maya, Morrell said, voice calm but firm. Your mother has regained partial consciousness. She's given a statement. No, Maya whispered. No, she didn't. She couldn't have. Her panic was rising too quickly, too sharply. Maya Harrison, he continued. You are being... No, she screamed. The waiting room erupted as she lunged toward me. Not to hurt me, but to cling to me, to use me as a shield one last time. Daddy, please. Please don't let them do this. I didn't do anything. I swear. Her nails dug into my jacket. Tell him, she sobbed. Tell him I wouldn't hurt her. Daddy, please. I closed my eyes. This was the moment every parent fears. The moment when love and truth tear each other apart inside your chest. When I opened my eyes again, I stepped backward. Just one step. But it was enough. Maya's hands slipped from my arms like water. Her face broke, cracked, shattered, contorted in disbelief. Daddy, she whispered. What are you doing? Why are you moving away from me? I couldn't answer. My throat was too tight. Detective Morrell approached carefully. Maya Harrison, he said, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of your mother, Evelyn Harrison. Her screams ripped through the hospital corridor. No, no. Daddy, stop them. Daddy, please. Officers moved in, cuffing her as she thrashed, her cries turning feral, almost inhuman. Daddy, please, she wailed. I'm your daughter. You love me. Don't you love me? Don't let them take me. Don't let them take me. Every word stabbed me. Every cry carved another wound. I want to run, to disappear, to erase myself. But I stood there because truth demanded it, because Evelyn deserved it, because my daughter had crossed a line no love could excuse. As they pulled her toward the elevator, she twisted back one last time, eyes wide with fury and betrayal. You chose her over me, she spat. You always chose her. Then the elevator doors closed. And just like that, the screams stopped. The weeks that followed were slow and merciless. Jason was released. The charges against him dropped instantly. He never once looked at me with anger, only with a grief so deep I could barely stand beneath it. I beg you to listen, he told me quietly outside the courthouse. I begged you. All I could do was lower my head. I'm sorry, I whispered. Sorry, he repeated, voice cracking. Doesn't fix what she did. He walked away, and I didn't stop him. Maya's trial lasted months. The evidence was undeniable. The financial motive, the confrontation, the injuries, the statement from her own mother. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When the judge read the verdict, guilty, Maya turned toward me with eyes that no longer resembled the child I raised. You destroyed me, she whispered. But she had destroyed herself long before the courtroom lights ever turned on. Evelyn recovered slowly, painfully, bravely. But something in her changed. Something in me changed too. We grieved a daughter who was still alive. We mourned a future that would never be. We learned that love does not always save people. And sometimes, the person you would have died for becomes the one who tries to kill you. There are moments, late at night, when I lie awake listening to the quiet breath of the woman who survived her daughter's hands. I think about the house, the staircase, the lies, the truth. I think about the day I stepped backward in that hospital hallway, the day I chose justice over blood. And I know it was the right choice, even if it broke me, even if it broke everything. I used to think that the deepest wounds in a family came from the outside, from strangers, from fate, from the cold accidents of life. I never imagined the sharpest knife would come from the hands I once lifted to the sky in celebration the day my daughter was born. Today, when I walk past the empty doorway of her childhood room, I still see the ghost of the little girl who used to run into my arms. I still hear her laughter. I still feel the warmth of the child I loved more fiercely than myself. And then, I remember the woman she became. The woman who stood at the top of a staircase, trembling with debt and fear and desperation, and chose the unthinkable. People ask me how a parent survives something like this. The truth is, you don't. Not fully. Some parts of you remain trapped in that house forever. But life doesn't pause for heartbreak. The world doesn't stop spinning just because yours shatters. Every morning I sit beside Evelyn, pour her tea, help her with the medication she now needs for the rest of her life. She survived, yes, but survival has a cost. She moves slower. She visits that staircase in her dreams. She wakes up with the memory of her own daughter's hands on her back. As for me, I wake up with a different memory. The memory of the moment she screamed my name in the hospital corridor, begging me to save her. And I didn't. I stepped back. I let the truth swallow her whole. Sometimes justice destroys you as much as the crime itself. And so this is where my story ends. Not with vengeance, not with triumph, not with a neatly tied bow. It ends the way real tragedies do, quietly, painfully, with two parents learning how to breathe again in the ruins of what used to be their family. If you have ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal cracked the bones of your soul, then you already know why I had to tell this story. Because silence protects no one. And sometimes the only way to heal is to finally speak the truth out loud.